Oh, say, can you see that the U.S. Open is here? Welcome back, folks, to The Slice. My name's Stephen Boughton, if we haven't met, and I'm about to give you a draw breakdown for the U.S. Open 2019. The big three are here, obviously, and that is going to be the central focus of this video. We're going to break down their draws. We're going to look at the potential quarterfinal matchups at this year's U.S. Open and some dangerous first-round matches for big players, and then some just general themes of this tournament leading up to it that I saw that we're going to have to get into. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at who you guys think are the favorites to win this tournament outside of the big three. We're going to get into all that in this episode of The Slice.
Welcome to The Slice.
Welcome to The Slice.
Welcome to The Slice.
Hello folks, how's it going? Welcome back to The Slice. Welcome to our new studio setup. If you can see here, we have a beautiful sign that says The Slice Tennis News because we're in the zone now. And we are at the US Open 2019, one of the most exciting tournaments for me by far on the calendar because it's a major. It's also on my home continent. And it's at a time in the day when I can watch all the matches after work. And so I'll be able to watch a lot more of these matches. So yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to be up to date. The Slice will be giving you the best updates on the tournament, coverage of the matches, the upsets, what's going on anywhere on the internet. So if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of that. Also, click the link below to watch some of these matches with me on a new thing called Match Companion. We're going to be live streaming myself, not the TV because that's copyright, but we're going to be live streaming myself during some of the matches, a select few of the matches during the tournament where you guys can sign in and watch with me. And that's for the Patreon people because they are the ones that are supporting this to get to the next level. Also, the Front Row Show will be coming out next week with like a mid-tournament update. So that's all on the Patreon Front Row Show. Click the link below. But the draw has just come out about an hour ago, and then I set up the studio, and it's looking pretty juicy. Of course, majors are always looking juicy with the draws because so many players are in it. At the U.S. Open, a theme historically has been the season's been going on for a while now, so we don't know where players are at essentially with their physical and mental health, where they're doing, like how they've been playing, but we're going to look into some of the bigger players, obviously, their momentum coming up to this tournament. But there's always surprises, I'd say, at this tournament, and I don't think this year will be any different. So what I'm going to do in this video is start with the potential quarterfinal matchups. That's just going to kind of give an outline of the draw, how it's come out, who's in which quarter, and then we're going to break down the big three's draws, and then we'll go from there. So the potential quarterfinal matchups at the US Open 2019, which I usually give a big anecdote saying these will probably not happen, but this year's quarterfinals, they look actually pretty, they could happen. They probably won't be exactly like this, but most of these matchups, or a few of these matchups, there's only four, I'd say have a decent chance of happening. So on the top, we have the number one seed in the tournament, Novak Djokovic, could play Daniil Medvedev, who's the fifth seed in the tournament, in the quarterfinals, which would be obviously a huge match if you've been focusing and paying attention to the tour in the last 3 weeks, because Daniil Medvedev is arguably the hottest player on planet Earth at this current moment. He made 3 out of 3 finals since Wimbledon, beat Djokovic in Cincinnati, and then won the tournament. Lost in the final of Montreal to a red-hot Rafael Nadal, and lost in the final of Washington before that to red-hot Kyrgios, who then imploded after that tournament. But we'll hope that our boy Kyrgios can make it back in this tournament. So that would be a great matchup, Djokovic versus Medvedev. See it in a 5-set matchup and see how their games. I'll tell you for free that there will be a lot of long rallies in that match, especially if the courts are slower. But that's an exciting match to look forward to. The next potential quarterfinal could be Federer, who is the number 3 seed, who is, yes, in Djokovic's quarter or half. He could play Kei Nishikori, who's the 7th seed, which it would not be the biggest threat for Federer fans, I wouldn't say, because Federer's definitely got the best of Nishikori in the history, but Nishikori did beat him at the World Tour Finals last year, which seemed to me to be a bit of a joke. But you all know I don't put that much respect on Nishikori's name until he does something about it. Last week, I called Richard Gasquet a scrub at the beginning of the tournament and said that Murray would beat him, and then he ended up making the semifinals. So I don't know how many pros watch this show, but if I call you a scrub, are you just going to turn it on? All of a sudden, you're going to make me look bad, Richard. Anyways, the third potential matchup is Stefanos Tsitsipas versus Dominic Thiem, which would be an amazing match to watch. Obviously, two one-handed backhands with two guys of the future of tennis. Thiem and Tsitsipas have been having a rough go of it for the last little bit, but a U.S. Open slower court, longer format, hard courts should be good for their games, and I expect this matchup to happen. But there is dangers for Tsitsipas in the first round, so stay tuned for that. The last matchup we can have is Alexander Zverev versus Rafael Nadal. So if that actually happened, that would be a really cool matchup, I think, because on a five-set match, it would be cool to see Zverev go up against one of the elite players, obviously, in the history of the game. I just feel like Zverev gets tripped up when he knows he should win. It gets mental for him, especially in the majors when it's kind of been his crutch as not getting deep in these tournaments. So if he could get deep to the quarterfinal, I think that'd be one of his first quarterfinals, maybe his first quarterfinal. I'm not sure on that. And if he was playing Nadal, I think that he'd be able to step his game up, and then we just see what happened. Obviously, I'd call Nadal as a favorite in that, especially because he's had success at the U.S. Open in the last couple of years. But yeah, that's the potential quarterfinal matchups. We got Djokovic and Federer in the same half of the draw, and then Nadal with a bunch of the young gunners in the bottom half. What are your thoughts on that draw? What are your thoughts on Djokovic-Federer being in the same half? We got a potential Wimbledon rematch there in the semifinals if that were to happen. But let's look at the draws of the big three. So let's start with Djokovic. In the first round, he plays some Spanish guy who I don't know his name. Then in the second round, he could play Sam Querrey, who could possibly be a challenge for him. He's beaten him before in a major. If Querrey were to get super hot, and if I would say the courts were faster, Djokovic beat Querrey at Cincinnati and didn't seem to have too much of a problem with him at all. So that shouldn't be a worry. Third round, he could get Dusan Lajovic, his compatriot, who won the Croatian Open, who's been playing a bit better tennis. He just doesn't seem to me to have the firepower to really hurt Djokovic. But again, we'll see. Shouldn't be a problem for Djokovic moving through the third round. Into the fourth round, he could definitely get some more stiff competition. He can play Anderson or Wawrinka in the fourth round. And now Anderson's been a great. He had success in the U.S. Open 2017. He made it to the final. He hasn't done any beat Federer in Wimbledon last year, but he hasn't had a great 2019. He's had injuries and he just hasn't had the results there. Wawrinka has been starting to get a little bit better, getting back into the groove of things, and he's caused Djokovic huge pains, mainly in major finals in the past. So that could be a dangerous match for Djokovic in the fourth round for sure. If either of those guys get there, I would say that's a dangerous match for Djokovic. And then moving into the quarterfinals, he could either play Medvedev or Fognini. Now, Medvedev could have a massive drop-off after the Cincinnati, but I don't think he will. I believe in the kid. I think that his game is super mature and that he's locked in right now. So the way he plays in a 5-set format, I think it should only benefit him. He seems like a robot. He's not getting tired out there. And he can just rally forever with you and counterpunch forever with you. So Medvedev would be a dangerous match for Djokovic as well. Fognini could be dangerous if he gets there, but that's never a guarantee. With fantastic Fabio, who likes to freak out frequently. Damn. Okay. Anyways, done with that. And in the semifinals, Djokovic could play Federer, which would obviously be unneeded to say, a very big match and a very dangerous match for Djokovic. Also, Djokovic would be probably the favorite, or definitely the favorite on that, I would say, in the hard court. But what we saw at Wimbledon was, I think, Federer pushing the pace, giving it to Djokovic most of that match, and then Djokovic pulling it out in the tie breaks and winning in the big matches or the big points. So Federer, I'm sure, will want another kick at the can at that. But that's Djokovic's draw. I wouldn't say it's the easiest draw. It's pretty difficult with Anderson and Wawrinka in the fourth round, Medvedev in the quarterfinals, Federer in the semifinals, and then even maybe Nadal in the finals. So if all the players who should make it through, it'll be a tough draw for Djokovic. But he's the Joker and he don't mess around. And he's a defending U.S. Open champion and number one player in the world. So we're not going to doubt his ability to get through that draw. Let's take a look at Rafael Nadal, who skipped Cincinnati, which was probably a good choice for him to rest up that body, because last year he had to pull out of the tournament against Del Potro. I actually forget if he pulled out or if he just it was clearly obvious that I'm pretty sure he pulled out. Anyways, Nadal has a dangerous first-round match, I would say. He's got the giant killer John Millman in the first round, who beat Federer last year, obviously. He's a good rallier. He's a good counterpuncher. Now he thinks he's a big match player. So Nadal starts it right out there with a familiar face to the Slice fans. I'm sure you all remember John Millman. And then we got, in the second round, a friend of the show, Thanasi Kokkinakis possibility. So Thanasi Kokkinakis, great dude. He got a wild card into the U.S. Open because he's had tons of injuries that have hurt his ranking. He's beaten Federer before. He can ball. That would be a very interesting and fun match to watch. Potentially a companion match to watch. You never know. Hopefully a night match. That would be sick. The third round, he could run into old friend Fernando Verdasco, who could be a bit of a challenge. Probably not, though. In the fourth round, he's going to get big hitters. It's either going to be Isner, Cilic, or Struff, or if all those guys lose, some random. But Jan-Lennard Struff cannot be slept on anymore. He's playing very well. He's had some big wins in these last few months, and he hits the ball huge. And on a nice hard court like that, it could be a problem for Nadal. You never know. Cilic could obviously be a problem if he gets his act together. Isner, I'd say, would be less of a problem because Nadal returns so well. But you never know. And in a 5-set match, I think Isner hasn't been playing super well lately with his body and everything like that. So Isner would probably be the easiest matchup for Nadal in that scenario. But we'll see who even gets through to the fourth round to play Nadal. And then in the quarterfinals, Nadal could play Karen Khachanov, which would be dangerous, or Zverev. So either of those guys would be, I would say, honestly, in my opinion, and I'm sure you've been watching tennis recently, I'd say Khachanov would be more dangerous than Zverev at this point. Huge cuts at the ball, and he's been playing well, having good results in the last few weeks. And then in the semifinals, he could either play Stefanos Tsitsipas or Dominic Thiem, who would be very dangerous if they were to get to that point. If they were to get to that point, their mojo would be rolling. They'd have confidence on the hard court. Like for Thiem, remember last year, Thiem and Nadal had an epic match, which almost took Nadal out of the tournament. It broke his body down, and then he didn't have anything left in the tank against Del Potro. So that could be super interesting. And Tsitsipas would love another crack at Nadal. He got destroyed by him in the Australian Open, and I'm sure the young buck would like to get back there, but he hasn't done much since Wimbledon, so we're gonna have to wait and see what they do. And then he could obviously play Djokovic or Federer or somebody else in the final. Federer's draw, he's got a qualifier in the first round. He's got Demir Zoomer in the second round. In the third round, he's got either Luca Pouille, who could be a tricky opponent because he's a great player and he's been playing well lately, or friend of the show, Dan Evans, Dirty Dan Evans. Hopefully, I would love to see this guy make it to the third round. And if you're new here, I interviewed Dan Evans in person in Miami this year, but also at the Vancouver Open Challenger last year. And I think his rank was 500-600 in the world because he had a year off of the tour because of a suspension. And he had to qualify for the Van Open, won the tournament. Anyways, he obviously hoped to get back to where he was, and he officially has. He's ranked 41 in the world, I think, right now, which is just awesome to see. I love comeback stories like that. Every person deserves a second chance. Dan Evans, we're with you. We're the Slices with you at this tournament. In the fourth round, Federer could play Goffin or Guido Pella. Guido Pella, actually, on our Instagram account at The Slice Tennis. If you're not following, you're just literally missing out. Guido Pella's girlfriend, who's a big model in, I think, Brazil, commented on our post, and because we actually had we said something like he beat Cilic in Wimbledon, and that was a mistake. But she said, nice list, as I think she was trying to roast us. But thanks for the publicity. We got some people pretty stoked on that because you should check out our Instagram. I'll just leave that there. And in the quarterfinals, Federer could have Coric, Nishikori, or Raonic. So Federer would have a tougher route there because Raonic is a big hitter, big server, and if he gets that far in a tournament, he's going to be more dangerous. Nishikori, again, I don't think he's going to beat Federer if he's playing well. If Federer makes it to the quarterfinals, he's going to be playing well. And then Coric, that actually has been a tough matchup. I think Coric just beat him twice in 2018. So that's going to be interesting. In the semifinals, the unneeded to be hyped match, Djokovic would be a rematch of this Wimbledon semi or final, and hopefully a revenge match for Federer there. So that's the draws of the big three. I think that Nadal and Djokovic have tougher draws than Federer. That hasn't been the usual lately, but it's just fallen this way. I think Djokovic and Nadal have tougher draws. They got to play better guys early on, and then they got some dangerous people around the fourth and quarterfinals. Basically, throughout the whole way, they have harder draws than Federer. So if you're a Federer fan, that's feeling good because last year he ran out of gas coming into the tournament, obviously. The court speed for this year's US Open is going to be a big deal. The court speed is, if it's super slow, it's going to hurt Federer. If it's super slow, it's going to honestly, I think, hurt Djokovic a little bit because some of these young guys, especially in his quarter, well, he doesn't have that many young guys in his quarter, actually. So never mind on that. But I think that he's obviously shown that he's a great fast court player at Wimbledon. He's won it the last 2 years. But If it's slower, I mean, he's going to be able to adapt, but it just means you're more tired when you get down the road to big servers like Anderson or Wawrinka or guys like Medvedev in the quarterfinal, who would love a slow court, I think. But I don't really know. We haven't seen enough of Medvedev. Like, Cincinnati was extremely fast, and he looked amazing there. So his game's probably adaptable, just like Djokovic's would be. But the main person who would hurt would be Federer, because we don't know where his fitness is really at, because he's only played 2 matches since Wimbledon. He said that he's worked really hard post Wimbledon. That the main thing would be to get his cardio up. But I don't know what was going on there last year when he looked like he was drenched in sweat at last year's U.S. Open, which you never even really see him sweat. And then he lost to old Johnny Millman. So that was a tough one for Fed. Unknown for a lot of players, their level coming in. We don't know what Kevin Anderson's really doing lately. Is he going to show up and play really well? We don't know what a guy like Milos Raonic has been doing lately. He pulled out of Montreal with injury. Is he just saving up for the U.S. Open? That guy seems to be injured a constant amount of the time. We don't really know. Shapovalov has gotten a little bit of momentum at the Winston-Salem Open here, but we don't really know where a lot of these guys are at. But what we do know is what you guys think of who outside of the big 3 are the biggest contenders to win the U.S. Open or to do damage. I put a post up on the YouTube about 20 minutes ago, and we've already got 73 votes, which is amazing. 80 votes. 56% of you say Medvedev is the most likely person outside of the big 3 to do damage at the U.S. Open, which makes sense to me. He just won Cincinnati, and he seems like the best player on tour right now, arguably, even including the big 3. 32% of you said Dominic Thiem, which is interesting because about 2 years ago, you wouldn't have given him any cred on hard court, but he won Indian Wells and beating Federer in the final, and he made it, and he had a great showing at the U.S. Open last year. And then after that, it goes Tsitsipas 5% and Zverev 4%. Like, no love for those guys. You guys have no belief that they can do well. And then others got 2%. So looks like Medvedev and Thiem, I would say, and you would say, are the biggest contenders outside of the big 3, which I like. I think that's legit. I think that they've shown that they can do it on the hard court. So let's look into some quick early juicy matchups. We have danger match for Stefanos Tsitsipas in the first round playing Andrei Rublev. Very scary because Rublev looked absolutely great against Federer in Cincinnati, taking him out. And then he's also been looking great at the Winston-Salem Open, which I'm just going to double check right now to see if he's still in the draw. But that's obviously a dangerous match for Tsitsipas because I think Tsitsipas is better than Rublev for sure, and he can step up and be mentally tough because that's one of the things that I've seen in him is him being super mentally tough. And Rublev defeated Query, so Rublev's into the quarterfinals now. Rublev hasn't been playing really well, so that'd be an interesting style matchup. Both like to take the ball kind of early and take big cuts at it. And it would just be whoever played better on the day. Next big match in the early rounds, the first round is Steve Johnson versus Nick Kyrgios. Nick Kyrgios had a meltdown, an absolute meltdown in Cincinnati. But we'll see how he can do at the U.S. Open against a guy like Steve Johnson. You got to say Nick's the favorite there, but Steve Johnson is a good player and has been playing well. Steve Johnson destroyed friend of the show Dan Evans in the Winston-Salem Open, like 6-2, 6-1 or something like that, which was sad to see. The next one, which I think, is there a possibility that the draw is rigged? We got Denis Shapovalov versus Felix Auger-Aliassime in the first round. 2 of my Canadian boys playing in the first round. Shapovalov has not played well since Miami, but he's actually been playing better at the Winston-Salem Open. He's in the quarterfinals. So that's got to be a bit of a refresher, a positive thing for Shapovalov going into the U.S. Open. It's got to be tough for Shapovalov, though, because he was the first kind of golden boy to break onto the scene in Canadian tennis, if you didn't know. And then his young, like a year and a half younger, Felix Auger-Aliassime is like right behind him, and now he's surpassed him. And Felix Auger-Aliassime is the number 1 player in Canada right now, so that's pretty crazy. But those are some early matchups to look for. Not too many huge matches in the first round, but prediction time. Now, I don't usually give my prediction this early in the tournament, but you guys always ask for it. So if I had to do a prediction of who I think has the best chance to win this tournament, I'm going to go out there and say Rafael Nadal does. My reasons for this is Djokovic has a tough draw. Federer hasn't historically done well in these last few years at the US Open, and they're in the same half of the draw. So they could like mutually combust each other, take each other out, make it super hard for them. And Nadal can sneak up the side of the draw where it has most of the young guns who have recently been choking mostly in the majors. So he could get up the bottom half of the draw unscathed and then show up to the final with lots of energy and beat Federer or Djokovic. And that's why I think he's the favorite to win, but it's obviously a slight favorite at this point, and there's no real evidence as far as playing on these courts and early round matchups or early round matches that they've played to go off. We'll give a more updated favorite at the quarterfinal preview that we'll do here at the Slice. But yeah, that's who I'm choosing right now. Nadal is the favorite. Outside of the big three, I would say Medvedev should do some serious damage at the U.S. Open. Anyways, let me know what you think about the draw, who you think your favorites are. What do you think about what I said? Get down in the comment section. I'll see you there. And lastly, check out the Slice Front Row. It's the Patreon show, and I'm going to be doing a live show of Match Companion during one of the matches. I'll probably do the first one free, just on the YouTube channel, and I'll schedule it. I'll let you guys know when it's happening so we can all watch together. But that's going to be some added value for the Patreon family who support the Slice. Also, big news coming out here about some new threads coming out your way from the Slice. So stay tuned for that. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is the US Open 2019, and we are psyched to be here. Stay tuned. Stay locked on the Slice for all the best US Open coverage. We'll see you very soon.